a co-leader of mine, friend of mine, a colleague, we started to analyze what was going on in our coaching clients' lives, the
Okay.
distinguishing qualities of the ones who were more successful and, dare I say, more fulfilling, more fulfilled with life than the others. What was going on inside these people's lives?
Right.
And we came up with this metaphor, pretty simple. Most of these people were up to something bigger than they knew how to do, and they wanted to create something. So again, they weren't just survivalists.
Right.
They would come to us and go, I want to start my own company. Oh, by the way, I'm going to actually, do a moonshot, the metaphor of a moonshot, right? I'm going to create this thing.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stephenson, the Odd Man.
What's happening, folks? This is the Audacious Living Podcast, where our ongoing goal is to help inspire our listeners to live their best and audacious lives ever. I'm totally thrilled to have you join us today, and I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to be here. Now, just like a kite soaring high in the sky, breaking free from the constraints of a string, getting out of your comfort zone and playing a bigger game in life can lead to new heights and extraordinary experiences. In today's interview with Rick Tamlyn, we delve into the power of pushing beyond boundaries and embracing the audacious journey that lies in front of each and every single one of us. Now, Rick is a motivational speaker, a life coach, and he certainly has a passion for helping individuals unlock their full potential and seize opportunities. With years of experience in personal development and mindset coaching, Rick brings a wealth of knowledge as well as some really sound insights to our conversation. In this episode, Rick shares his own experiences and practical tips on how to break through limitations, overcome fears, and step into a more audacious way of living. His expertise and guidance serve as a source of inspiration for listeners looking to make positive changes in their lives. So now that you've got you all set, let's turn to our conversation with Rick. Enjoy. Hey, Rick, this is awesome, man. This is great to have you here. Thank you for being on the Audacious Living Podcast with me.
Well, I am honored. And as I was telling you before we pushed the play button, I just want everybody to know I went off and I've researched you, and you've been out and you've been doing your thing. And I want to underline right out of the gate this word that you've chosen as your sort of metaphoric work in the world so fits. You're an audacious guy, an audacious leader, great word for you. So, from the branding over here, I'm like, yeah. So well done. Well done. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, honestly, I appreciate you saying that, Rick. It really, I couldn't be any more authentic than the things I put out in the world. It truly is what I represent. It's funny. It's what I've always represented before I even knew I was doing it. Right.
Yeah. Right.
And
exactly.
and that realization piece is huge, because when I got there, I was like, oh,
yeah.
Right. And then and you do this thing I was telling you earlier. You do this thing where you look back at all that you've done, and the dots start to connect.
Yeah.
And someone once said, it's always stuck with me, that when you live your life in forward, it's a science. When you stop back and look at it, sorry. When you live right forward, it's an art. When you look back, it's a science. Everything made sense, right? And that's exactly. But in the moment, you're going with your gut. You're going with what you think.
Tuition. Let me try something.
Try is a big word, right? Such a big word. And I think try is a great word for you as an empowerment coach, because this is exactly what you want people to do, is to try and get out there. And so maybe as a starting point, let's kind of get our listeners up to speed a little bit about you and describe maybe your work you do and how you got here.
Yes, sure. So I'll begin with the quote unquote maybe the most successful thing is I wrote a book for Hay House. Some of you might know Hay House is right. So I wrote a book called Play Your Bigger Game. It did pretty well, and it got me into a lot of rooms, corporate rooms. So that's what's been happening over the last 10 years of my life. I've been in the personal growth space for now 40 years.
Wow.
And Tony Robbins way back when. So imagine this, by the way, New York City. I'm an actor struggling and suffering, 80s, early 90s, and you turn on the TV in the middle of the night in your darkest moment, right?
Yeah.
Who's there in the middle of the night? Tony Robbins. So Tony Robbins was the infomercial god, right? He started the infomercial. So I'm literally watching in the middle of the night, and of course, what do? I pull out on my credit card, and I buy the Tony Robbins Personal Power series, and it
Yeah.
shows up in cassettes. And I still have them in my garage. So that was the entree into, okay, this guy's pretty cool. I like how he thinks. There's a psychology to this. There's a technology to the human condition.
Yeah.
And I know you and I are both fascinated by, how does motivation work? How does creativity actually happen from nothing to something?
Yes.
We go behind the curtain of how does that actually happen? So I like to think of us, oddly, as not just motivational speakers. We're actually activational creators.
I love it.
We're actually activating the creativity that lives in other people.
Yes.
Right. Rather than, because motivation is like, go. I mean, yay to motivation, but motivation is sort of thin sometimes. So I think our job.
I think of motivation kind of like gas in the car, right?
Yeah.
Like
gas
your car, but eventually it'll run out.
I need to drive this car myself.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the sort of the short story. I was an actor for many years in the entertainment business, a couple movies, commercials, blah, blah, way back when. But then I got into the life coaching space, 1992, with one of the first life coaches in New York City. Again, I won't go into the long story. They started the Coaches Training Institute, the largest coach training school in the world. I was an early adopter, became a trainer for them. The rest is history. Have trained probably 30,000 life coaches in my lifetime.
Amazing.
So that's the doing in my resume side. Now I help people like you in the space, like thought leaders. My language is people who they have something in them that says, I need to make this real.
Yes.
I need to birth something. So I'm, bigger game really means you are here to create something. What is it?
Yes.
Rather than just get through life and survive life. You and I both know this context. You can either survive through life, or you can thrive and be a creative force in life.
You got it.
And you and I are sort of, we're activating people to realize you're a creative force in this life.
Yes.
Versus just survive from life. I call it circumstantial living. I got through the circumstances as best I could, instead of, oh my God, no, I created. I mean, here you are doing a podcast. You are a creative guy. Let's figure this out. Let me do the next.
Yep. No, I love it. I love the mission. Creative activator. I'm gonna have to coin that, man. That's a great one. That's a good one.
Yeah, Laura. I mean, it's right.
Well, because really, what it does, it allows you to recognize that, like, I mean, if there's some words I'm a big fan of, so I'm a big fan of the word audaciousness for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, if that hasn't been made clear, I totally am. But the word creator or creation,
that's my favorite word.
To me, it's a wonderful word, because it allows you to, like, words like potential, possibility, dream, transform,
all of that comes
all of these words come out of it. And so and those are all like empowering words, right? They truly are. So I'm a really big fan of that. I'd love to know when you landed in the coaching space, because you can get into life coaching and go off in all sorts of different directions.
Yes, correct.
Right? So how did you land where you did?
That's a great question. Well, here's what happened. This is a philosophy. This book is a philosophy. There's a model to it. It's a thing. But what happened is a co-leader of mine, friend of mine, a colleague, we started to analyze what was going on in our coaching clients' lives, the distinguishing qualities of the ones who were more successful and, dare I say, more fulfilled with life than the others. What was going on inside these people's lives?
Right.
And we came up with this metaphor, pretty simple. Most of these people were up to something bigger than they knew how to do, and they wanted to create something. So again, they weren't just survivalists. They would come to us and go, I want to start my own company. Oh, by the way, I'm going to actually, do a moonshot, the metaphor of a moonshot, right? I'm going to create this thing. I'm going to go create a workshop that's around family development. Like, people were we started to attract people who were in the personal and leadership development space, because leaders
Yes.
create stuff, managers manage people who create this stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it formed itself. And so now I help people, quote unquote, play a bigger game in a year-long program. That's what I actually sell now. I got 27 people in a mastermind-ish kind of thing, who are up to really big stuff. And I want to be really clear, lots of things are out there, like how to make 7 figures in 7 minutes. Not that guy. I'm the guy that says, I'm going to help you figure out how to have a big impact. And by the way, big impact, your income will take care of itself. Focus on impact, income will figure itself out.
Yeah. A part of this that I appreciate, and I'm hearing from you, is you're kind of meeting where people where they're at.
Yeah, you got to meet them where they're at. Yep.
In that, so if I want to play a bigger game, the game I play might be very different than yours.
Oh, very different.
Sally's or Tom's, right?
Yeah.
So there's some assessment work for me to figure out what's going on. What does Audley Stephenson want to do? Right.
Yeah.
There we go.
In this model, I have a very simple 9 square model. Compelling purpose. Basic question. Why am I on this planet? It's the big existential question. Most people don't spend 20 minutes on that conversation.
Right.
We go get a job, and but then other people come along and go, wait a minute, I got to go inside. To your point, you said it earlier. COVID came along. The big COVID shutdown actually was the big COVID introspection moment. It caused huge introspection
for a lot of people.
What am I doing?
You had people walking out of jobs. A mass walk off.
Massive, like probably appropriately. Like, what is this spin? What are we going for here?
Yes.
Do we need $12 million in the bank? I mean, capitalism on steroids starts to turn into a ridiculous, like, what's the point? What am I doing this for? So, it's the big existential question. What am I here to create while I'm on the planet? And I want to offer this perspective on, I love what you said earlier about your philosophy on life. I want to offer one that I think is really profound for people to hear sometimes.
Okay.
Maybe you've heard this. There's 3 ways to live life. I kind of heard this, but I've surmised it into some of my own language. The first one is the victim perspective. Life is doing me. Then this, and we literally speak, then this happened to me, and then this happened to me, and then my government did this to me, and then my neighbor did, it's the to me life, right?
Yes.
Then you kind of grow up, and that's sort of adolescent, right? Young, and then you grow up, and then you realize,
sometimes it stays with people longer, man.
No, I know. I mean, right. It's like, okay, you're 65 and you're still doing the to me game. It's like, really? Could we have a bigger conversation?
That's funny.
It's true. They sort of get caught in that, and you probably have learned there's actually a brain wiring to that consciousness, to that conversation.
Yes.
There's actually a brain wire in there that goes, I'm a victim, and doesn't know how to
a default, almost like a default.
Yes, like a default. The second way is life happens for me. Life happens for me. So the first way is to me. Life happens for me. This is a little bit more the mature context called, oh, look at that. That happened. So then I could be here.
Yes.
Oh, and so to your point, that's what you said earlier. You look back.
Yes.
You realize, oh, this was actually somewhat cosmically planned.
Yes. Yep.
Like maybe not divinely, who knows if there's anybody pulling the strings. I don't know.
Right.
But the third way, which is bigger game energy, and I think you help people, is life happens through you. And those are the people, you're one of them, who says, I actually have a message. I have a purpose. I'm going to turn it into a podcast. I'm going to do retreats. I'm going to be the voice of something. And that's the through me context. That's the people I work with. People who say, I've got stuff to share with the world, sort of the wisdom sage model. And I mean, you're one of those people. Like, I have stuff to say. Ready?
Right.
And you have courage and the guts and the personality and the charisma to do it.
Thank you. As you're describing those 3, I have the image of what their morning looks like when they get out of bed, right?
Yes.
Someone's jumping out, someone's kind of like walling on, and some are hitting the snooze button to prolong getting up, right? And so I think all 3 And all three do exist.
They all three, yeah,
They absolutely
beautifully
are.
said. Yeah, there's not like, oh, that's a horrible one. It's like it's almost stages, or to catch it and go, okay, I'm
Yeah,
having a victimy day. Okay, I'm gonna be a victim and go for the walk and talk to God or talk to my whatever. I'm gonna
yes.
call my coach and go, okay, this is horrible. Oh my God, my life is over. And we get through it,
Yeah,
So
and there's almost like you can almost transition. No,
yeah, yep,
not everyone does transition, right?
no,
But
right,
people can literally
correct,
transition where they start in the victim world and going, "Oh my
yep,
gosh," and
yep,
so did this to me, and so and so this to me, and then it's like, okay, wait a second,
yep,
like why? Why did that happen?
yeah,
And
exactly.
like, okay, and
Fine.
I think Rick, that internal conversation that we have ourselves is absolutely critical.
It's the most important part.
When we can start saying, asking ourselves honest questions,
Honest
why
questions
do we do what we do?
without shaming.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
There's no
yeah.
shame,
Don't
no
judge
blaming or
yourself.
shaming.
Don't
No, right.
blame, nothing like that. Leave the negative stuff outdoors.
Just
And
go,
instantly
wow,
just go, okay, why does
be
happen?
fascinated. Yeah.
Yeah,
What's up
why?
with that? Why did I do that? How did I create that?
Yeah, no. I find, when truth be told, I have those conversations at the end of like a relationship, as an example,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Relationship
Yes.
comes to an end. I go, gee, what I do?
So what did I do?
And then it's like, man, and
Yeah.
I really do. I'm really honest with. I start with myself, and then, but what's really neat is I get to a point, and I'll think back to maybe this, this one relationship that didn't go right. I'm like, yeah, the Audley today, that wouldn't have happened, right? So I can
Yeah.
see that growth, and I can be like, okay, cool,
Yeah.
and that's, I think, but that's a process to get to. That's a process.
Correct.
You've got to constantly move.
Well, to your point, it's a beautiful, I love the way you say it. The transformation happens through the conversation.
Yeah,
And again, this is a little simplistic, but three conversations, I'm into the three thing lately.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Three conversations are designing your life, period. This conversation that you and I are having, i.e., a coaching therapeutic type
Yep,
conversation.
yep.
And then what's the conversation we're having with the world at large? Like, how do I watch the news? How do I, because that informs the inner conversation.
That's right.
So conversations design our life, period, end of story.
Yeah.
We get to reframe any of it. And you all know, I mean, in the world of news, oh my God, it's all just a reframing game. How do I want to look at this world?
That's right. That's
Is it
right.
a scary world? Is it a friendly world? Is it like I have to be with the circumstances? I'm not going to put my head in the sand. But if I look at it all, it's a terrifying world. And now I'm so fear-based, I don't want to get out of bed.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Because
So,
yeah, what are you doing? Like, really, what are you doing at that point, right?
Right.
And,
So,
I mean, I'm always fascinated how, and usually you talk about the news, like you'll look at something, a news story or an event or
yeah,
whatever, and two people watch it and have two totally different opinions or
totally right.
viewpoints, right? And
Yeah.
you're like, wow, and
Yeah.
why is that even?
Yeah. And our
And
job.
so, no,
Go
no,
ahead.
I was gonna say those things fascinate me. Those things fascinate me.
Me too. And I think when we're at our best, my job is to be authentically curious about your perspective.
Yes, yes,
Even though we know what we're going through in our country, right? It's like, whoa, okay, we forgot the ability to be authentically curious.
yes, yes.
It's very simple. And I know everybody hears it and everybody like it. We're preaching it a lot. We're not practicing it so well.
Yep, yep. You're right.
So here
Absolutely.
you are being with me, curious about me, my life. You can feel it. You're open-hearted.
Mhm.
What do you got, Rick?
Yeah, yeah,
That's the way we want to be with each other ultimately. Right?
yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you. I wonder if you can define the bigger game. So if someone said, "What is the bigger game?" What would
Yeah.
you? Well, how do you define that?
Yeah, it's a metaphor. First of all, I'll try to make it one sentence. If you
Yep.
look at life as a game, really
Mhm.
what it means is life is all made up. I get to make it up. Right. So first of all, it's a game. And then that could be people like really triggered by that. No, it's not. It's really serious and bad stuff's happening. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, just step back. So I do, it's like, okay, it's all kind of a thing. It's all a made up thing. Steve Jobs made it up and I made it up and my neighbor's making it up. And here you are making it like it's all made up. Right. And okay, so then the metaphor is bigger means something that's outside the realm. I can dream it, but it feels bigger than I can accomplish because we're designed by the level of the game we play. I don't think people sit around and go, I want to solve cancer, except for the people who do. So it is that metaphor of, I really do want to go for something in my life, and I want to be, it does have a quality of having some sort of positive impact on the world.
Yeah.
It does have that,
Yep.
like, it's not just for me to like, okay, I won the prize, I've got all the boats and cars, and okay, that's not a bigger game.
No.
That's an expensive life.
Right.
So it does have this give back quality to it. It does have, you used the word earlier, it has a mission to it. Because we all know we get to the end of our life and we look back and go, we want to be able to say, that's the impact I had. Like, oh, that's the thing I created. So it does have this, what's the impact I want to have?
Yep.
And by the way, it does not have to save the planet. It could be for my neighborhood. It could be for my family system.
That's such
Doesn't
a beautiful
matter.
point. No, that's a beautiful point, because what that
Don't save
says
the world.
is we can have impact. We all have a spirit.
We're always having impact.
Right? We all have a spirit of influence. And if put it this way, if everyone in the world was trying to impact their sphere positively,
correct. Oh my God, right?
We would have the global thing that we're talking about here.
That's absolutely right.
But it doesn't start with just one person. Audley Stephenson, Rick Tamlyn are the people that are going to save the entire planet. No. Collectively, we're going to save the entire planet.
Correct. So this is an activational model. There's 9 components to it. It's a tic-tac-toe board on purpose, so it feels like a game.
Can we talk about those 9 components? I'm really curious about them.
Really fast. Yeah. So again, my co-leader, Laura, she's no longer with us on this earth plane, but certainly with me in my conversations in my head. We step back and go, hey, what goes on with a person who's really successful? So I'll just begin with hunger. These are made up words, right? Like, these are the people that are like, I am really hungry to have an amazingly rich, dynamic life. And I'm hungry to make a difference, right? It's not just what do you want, hunger. It's like, this must satisfy something deep, which then goes to compelling purpose, which is, this is the big why. This is the, the guy who wrote the book, Begin with Why. This is our version of why. What are you compelled by? What motivates you? Right?
Yep.
Then we go to this other fancy word. We made up this term. Like gulp. Like, it literally is a term that means, I don't know if we can do that. I don't think that's possible. Can we put a man on the moon, really? Oh, I don't know. So it has this, I don't think it can happen, and it must happen at the same time quality to it. And it literally, physically, it's like this. Mm-hmm. And the coaching profession was founded on that energy. These people were making this up. Mm-hmm. Now it's $1 trillion industry. Way back when we started, there was one workshop a month. Right. And then it exploded into this multi-million-dollar company, but it was a gold moment, right? Like, I don't know. So straightforward. Next one is investment. You got to invest in the game: time, money, energy, training, teaching. This book is an investment into getting the bigger game philosophy into the world. So, this actually costs me money to print it. All this, I won't go into it, but that was an investment to keep the message into the world. Right.
Yes.
This is not complicated. This is why, by the way, back to this, it says 9 minutes to learn, a lifetime to live. Wow. This is not rocket science. Yeah. It's just been put into a format. Allies, very simple. Can't do it alone. However, I want to broaden the perspective of allies. Sometimes allies are pets. Sometimes allies are nature.
Yes.
Sometimes allies are talking to my dear, sweet, deceased dad on the other side, because I talk to him almost every day. He's an ally for me. Yeah. Sometimes a spiritual practice is an ally. Yes. So allies is a very broad, it's not just the people who are going, I'm with you.
But go. I think of it as that thing, and we'll say things for the lack of a better term, that give you or put you in a place of peace, right?
Yeah.
But also that sort of elevates you at the same time, right? And that's why. So we talk about loved ones that have passed on, keeping their memory alive is so important for that reason, so they can continue to be that ally that you talked about.
Yeah. So, and the other part of allies, to get that, it's also the people who think you're crazy. This is nuts. The judgers who come at you and go, that's nuts.
As crazy as sounds, you need them.
You need them. Those people. That's the Steve Jobs. Here's to the crazy ones. You know, this one, by the way, that perspective of that one came to me from my mom, is obvious. My brother was diagnosed with bone marrow cancer 40 years ago,
Okay.
given 3 months to live. My sweet little diminutive mother said, "Not on my watch." And because 4 hospitals told her, "Your son is going to die," right? And she just found a ferocious, courageous energy. And she found another doctor and said, "You do whatever you need to do." I remember she was like screaming at the doctor. He's alive and well today. And he's been written up in medical journals because of that moment. Right. So this is like leadership at its best.
Yeah, yeah,
Now,
for
compelling
sure.
purpose is my son's not dying on my watch, right? I
Right,
mean, it's
right.
pretty simple, right? Okay, sustainability, pretty straightforward. Are you taking care of yourself while you're playing this bigger game? Is this fun? Are you going on a vacation? Are you working out? Are you eating right? Are you sleeping? This is the player. You need to take care of this entity. The second part of sustainability is, are you designing it that it could go on without you if you were to stop it, or you're going to pass on? Great example in our country, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Nobody knows the founders.
Right.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. They created a sustainable model of this impact of this amazing organization, and really raise the consciousness of our the drinking and driving thing. So
Yeah. Yeah.
right, okay, assess, very simple. How's it going? Is it working? I need to assess, not judge or vote or judge like, is it working? Is it fun? Right? What do I need to adjust? It's the adjustment meter, right? Comfort zones in our culture, that's a tendency to, like, we have to leave our comfort zone all the time. In this model, the language I use all the time is, we're always in a comfort zone. Does it serve me or not with my
Yeah.
bigger game?
Yeah.
Like jogging every day. I jog every single day. I have to jog every single day. It's a comfort zone. It serves me.
Mm.
Right? Worrying, comfort zone that doesn't serve. Okay, we got to figure that out. What do I need to do? So
Right.
there's being comfort zones and there's doing comfort zones, behavioral and inner life and outer life. Final square, obviously, bold action. Without bold action, this is just a lovely go for lunch and let's dream it, and like let's dream
Right.
it one more time.
You are absolutely right. I mean,
Right.
you can
So,
read all the books,
oh my
listen to
God,
all
right.
the podcasts, see all the greatest speakers in the world, but
And what do
that
you do
center square
without it?
isn't.
It's just bullshit. Yeah, exactly. Like, what are you trying? And then I ask people, what's the operative word for you, bold or action? And people, whatever they say, bold or action. So the way to think about it, and it's a 2-day workshop, is this is on the floor in a gigantic tic-tac-toe board with blue tape, and I've done it for teams of 50 to 1,000 people in a
Okay.
room.
Okay.
So they all walk around. Where are you on the game board? I call it a game board.
Yeah.
Where do you want to be? Where's the team? So what it
Yes.
does is it activates a responsible creativity conversation.
Mm.
That's what it does. Right? It just gives me information. Oh, I'm in a comfort zone. It's called this. Oh, I realize I don't want to be there. What do I need to do? Oh, I need to call for help. Oh, I need to hire a coach. Oh, I need to actually go on vacation because I'm so resentful. I want to kill somebody. I mean, right? So it activates the responsibility of a person to take more conscious responsibility with the life they're creating.
Yes. Yes.
So very simple tool
Yes.
that has gained a lot of traction. I'd be honest, it's a
Good.
great workshop. I've been doing it for years. And anyway, I do a train the trainer. I've got trainers all over the world that do it. Right. So
I
thank you for asking.
no. Well, and I really appreciate the simplicity of it.
Yeah, it's very simple.
There's nothing that you've said
Yeah.
there that I'm going,
Yeah.
huh? How do I make
No,
that work? Or how do I
no.
make that fit? Or what does that have to do with me? You think about those 9 elements there, and every single one of them we've thought about already.
Correct. I just
We've
gave it
done,
nomenclature. Yep.
right? What you simply done is put a
Correct.
framework around it,
Correct.
right? And allow people, okay, this is a framework, let's go.
Yeah, this is where I am. This is where I want to be. This is
That's
what's
right.
up. Yeah, exactly. So, I went to your website, and you do a masterful job, a beautiful job of the framework thing. When you give people a framework,
The bold framework, yes.
a
Yeah.
bold framework, I loved it. I was like, oh, great. He's going to sort of, I was like,
Oh, I'm gonna love that.
okay,
Well, yeah, and so the
you know,
bold framework
when
essentially
you
is
give,
how it's how So what
right,
I simply say
yeah,
is this is a framework to live your best audacious life ever.
correct,
Right? This is
correct.
how you do it, and you start with be better
Yeah,
than yesterday. So
yeah.
absolutely, you had some great successes. You climbed that mountain yesterday,
Mhm.
and it was great. You got them, you celebrated. But what do you do next, right?
Yep.
Because the reality is, the top of that mountain is really the bottom of another one,
The
right?
next
And
one,
so
right.
So what are you doing today? And so in grade 5, you won your little league championship. As an adult, that doesn't serve you anymore. So
Right.
what are you doing? And so it's better than you did yesterday. The
Love that.
old speaks outlasting adversity. Like we all going to run into challenges. We're all going to have something that's going to knock us down. But if you think of life as a continuum, like, so I use the hills and valleys as as an analogy.
Yeah.
If you're going along, right, the hill, on top of the hill, it's great. You can celebrate. You're happy. It feels good. But as life goes, you start to go down that valley, and the valley is yucky. It sucks. It might be painful. There might be all sorts of things there you don't like. Your job really is to think about what do you got to do to get yourself back up to the top of the hill.
Right.
That's really what it is. Or you can wallow and stay where you're at, right? Like you can stay in bed. You can be the victim and say, world is happening to me. How do I take action so I can celebrate and be on top of the hill? The L is live your truth. It's really centered around authenticity. Like
values,
being real,
stuff, right?
as true as your values are the core of who you are, what you stand for, and then what you show to the rest of the world. That's the part of. So it's one thing to be that, but what does the world see?
Yeah, exactly. Am I walking the talk of it?
Yeah, the walking. I think that's a perfect one. And then lastly, the D is for disrupt the norm. And I just think if you want to do anything great, anything successful, you're gonna have to be a trailblazer and go off that beaten path. The Wright brothers did it. Steve Jobs did it. Like all these people said, I'm going to do this. And because of these things that they've done, they've made the world better in so many ways. And so, the entry point for that framework could be wherever you're at. But if you incorporate this into your regular practice, I feel you will live your best audacious life while making a difference in the world at the same time.
Yeah, well, what I love that you said too in there. First of all, I love a great framework, so yay. And but the practice of it, we forget that life is a practice.
Yep, you're right.
It's like instead of I learn something and then I go, oh, I got it. I mean, working out is a practice. Yoga is a practice. Spiritual, we call it spiritual practices. And I think most people don't have the commitment and the discipline to keep the practice going.
Right.
Right.
Well, I think to your point, it's a mindset thing, right? So if your mindset is this is a practice, then that you don't go to the gym and work out and say I'm worked out, I'm done. It's an ongoing process. It's a practice, a continuing. And so again, better than you did yesterday. You did that yesterday. What are you doing today?
Yeah, I love
that.
Wow, cool. When are we doing the workshop together?
You're no kidding, Rick. You got me pumped there, man. I love it. I might have to check out your Train the Trainer. I really do. I think the framework that you put together is fantastic. I want to talk just a little bit about comfort zones.
Yeah, sure.
None of this happens unless we get out of it, right?
Yeah.
The challenge is the comfort zone is a great place to be. It is just that. It's comfortable.
Yeah. Well, except when it isn't.
Right.
I mean, it feels comfortable, but it also, here's the thing. I'm going to use the word for me. I'll just talk about for me. I get lazy. Lazy is a comfort zone. Oh, I'd rather not. Do I need to do this today? No, I don't need to, but I'm playing a bigger game. So that's the discipline where it kicks in. Right. But I want to remind everybody, it's the question in the comfort zone square is, does this serve me or not? Like, I want to use sort of a radical example. Do you remember Michael Moore, the movie filmmaker guy?
Yeah.
Michael Moore, right? He's very controversial.
He made a controversial movie. Absolutely, the director.
The first one was about General Motors, how it destroyed his town. Then he did the gun thing.
Yes.
He's a very controversial figure, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And he's sort of gone, right? I don't know what's happened to him, but he had a great, he was, to your point, very like, I'm going right at it. And that became his comfort zone to always be controversial. So yay to that. But there was one time when hopefully I can connect the dot here. He was given an Academy Award, right? And he came out on the stage and he still was in the mode of like the message of the movie. Yes. And he got booed off the stage. Remember this moment? He got booed off the stage. If you go look it up, it's really interesting. Because if I coached him, I said, Michael, you need to actually let the room appreciate the artistic adventure that you took yourself on. They
Yes.
want to give you an award. And he was still in the mode of like gun control. He was still messaging because he realized, oh, I have a global audience. I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It was a comfort zone of like so committed to the message that it actually backfired on him. And that's an example of a comfort zone that like it served him until like, okay, no, not the right room to do this in. You know, like read the room. They are applauding for you and now they're booing because you're still on message versus
Yes.
receiving the
Yeah.
accolades of you made a
Yeah.
movie. So that's an example of where something serves and then it all of a sudden didn't.
Right. That's a good one. That's a good one.
You know, so it's one of those like, oh yeah, right. Now, could he have recovered in that moment the next days, media wise? Probably. Who knows? You know, that's an example. And then for our own personal lives, you know, running every day, yay, okay, comfort zone. But recently, a person who works out with me, who I hired to help me work out, said, "You need to lift more weights. You're not lifting enough weights. You're 65. You're losing muscle. Yay to you running, but now you're getting skinny."
Right.
So yay to your heart rate, but boo to your muscle weight.
Right.
So comfort zone of running, because now I'm addicted to running, but I hate lifting weights.
Yes.
So I got to get out of that comfort zone. It's a yes and still gonna run, but now we need to do more of this. You know, it's just an example.
Yeah. No. Both can serve serve a
Yes.
place, right? They have a
Yes.
place, and so,
Yes.
but
And so
it's
we
right. Yes, but it's recognizing that line.
Yeah.
It can take you only so far,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then you got to do that next level up.
Yeah, what do
Right?
we, you know, need to take a bold action. So to your point, it's a very introspective square. They all are. Like, what is my comfort zone here? What is my, you know, I mean, the other one I have in my relationship life is I want to be right. That's a comfort zone. I want to be right.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, that's helpful. Have you heard that great motivational? You probably heard it. Do you want to be right or do you want to be in a relationship?
Relationship. That's right.
It's one of my favorite quotable, like motivational. When they said that, I went, "Oh my god, I can't." I was like, I think it was 25 when I heard that. I went, "Oh, that's so right. That's so
Yeah,
good."
yeah.
And that's what our culture is, right?
I really love you know when I you know oftentimes I'll finish these dialogues and conversations. I'll reflect on what we just talked about and what I heard, and one of the ones that's gonna resonate with me is the whole idea of life just being all made up. Um,
It is.
it really helps put things in perspective, Rick, in a great way. And so I certainly appreciate you for sharing that. Appreciate the insights.
It is the name of our company, by the way. It's all made
Oh,
up. It's so, you know, which
love it.
stands for the acronym, by the way, IAMU.
Okay.
It's all made up. So I am just like you. We are just so IAMU.com is the anyway. It's just fun to play with the acronym of it.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of that. I want to actually kind of go back a little bit because you said you started your career in acting, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would have imagined that
Yeah.
back then that was the dream, like to
It was
be
a dream.
actor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But to leave that to go into coaching, so talk about that transition because
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a good question. Acting was, you know, I bumped into it in college. You know how you're like, oh, you know, I bumped into an audition, and then I had some decent luck and found an agent, and I won a couple of awards. Anyway, sort of like, oh, I can do this. But
Yep.
here's the distinction for me. Well, first of all, you know, the volume of failure you have to be with is extraordinary.
Yes.
You know, literally, they would say to us in acting school when I went to get my MFA, they were like, okay, if there's anything else you love, even just a tad, go do that. Like, you're going to be with level of, you know, so only 1% of the acting community actually makes money at it. It's such a low number. So you have to really have, so did I have the resiliency? Probably not. If I had better coaching and maybe support, I might stay with
Sure.
it. But here's
Sure.
what happened. So the Coaches Training Institute asked me to train, not just coach. So now I'm in front of rooms almost every weekend for 20 years. So the entertainer actor in me has found a home. And then you add personal development and an emotional life and being with people.
Yes.
Now it's a home run.
Yes. That's a fantastic combination because it's so unique.
Right. It was such a good combo.
Yeah.
And then corporate found us. And then I got the public speaking thing going. And then I'm
Yes.
speaking to 5,000 IBMers in Vietnam about playing a bigger game. And now I'm like, okay, I have reached nirvana. So, as a thought leader, as a fellow thought leader, there's this combo of speaking, teaching, coaching, writing, right? Those are
Sure.
the four elements of the successful thought leader. We have to generally have a book, I think. We have to teach some stuff. We got to speak some stuff. We got to coach some people, right? And there's our business.
I love it.
So,
Oh, I love it. I love it.
so
My it's funny when you sort of talk about the small percentage that are successful, in
yeah,
the acting industry. I was not in the acting industry at all per se, if you will. I did do that whole extra thing where they want extras and you go
yes,
in,
yes,
and,
not
and I had to
surprised.
really, I really had to get comfortable, going into a room
Yeah,
and everyone looking like me, right?
yeah,
Like,
I know, right?
and you're going, like I'm
I
not the
know,
only
right?
bald black guy out there. Like, oh
I
my
know, right?
god.
There's taller, handsomer, darker, lighter,
That's
right? I'm like, oh, okay. And it's just a crapshoot, right?
right. But yeah, but
Yeah,
to your point though, to be
yeah,
resilient and keep going, and it's you
yeah.
give those that have done it, you give them a lot of credit because
Yes.
while we may not necessarily see all their entire journey, we
No.
have an idea of what they've gone through, and it wasn't an easy road.
Well, every interview on every talk show they're on, they're like, oh, you're like an overnight success. They're like, they always go, are you kidding me? I started auditioning when I was 20, so everybody, so most people, you have your once in a while, your pop through. But
Sure,
those people, by the way, the ones that haven't done the inner work crash and burn.
sure,
You
yeah,
watch them. So I get it.
nice,
But
nice,
you do have this about yourself. Come on, you have the personality.
yeah.
Have you ever done stand up? You have stand up quality too.
So I tell you, stand up was one of my bucket list things to do,
Yeah, yeah. I think you'd be
and
good at it.
and so I did go
Yeah,
do one, so open
yeah.
mic night, and kind of did
Yes,
it,
right,
and
right.
it was strange because so it was so Monday open night mics, a Monday night
Yeah,
you go in
yeah,
there,
right.
it's not really
Risk.
packed to begin with, right?
No, right.
In fact,
Low risk, low
well,
risk.
what it is, in fact, the people that are there are the other open micers, and their family and friends are there to support
Yes,
them,
right.
right?
It's kind of
and and
cool.
and, and that's essentially who's there. And so I remember getting up and did my 5 minutes and
Yeah,
walked off and went, oh, that seemed uneventful. And I checked it off and moved on.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I did it once. I never went back to it again, but
yeah,
I could say,
yeah, yeah.
maybe it's something to revisit. Who knows? But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Well, you certainly have the personality,
Well,
right? But
thank you.
have you have a book in you yet? Yeah,
So I'm working on something now.
yeah, good, good.
I
Yeah,
I wrote
yeah,
shit, oh boy, I want to say about 10 years ago, I wrote, well, more than that now. Gee, I'm like 20, almost 20. Um, I wrote, I wanted to write something, but didn't want to, well, didn't want to, I guess it was this fear about like, I didn't want to overextend myself by
mm,
writing. And
mm,
so I instead thought, I could do something safe. And
mm,
what I did is I wrote a book of quotes.
mm.
But
Yeah,
the book of quotes were some of them I made up, some I
yeah,
borrowed, right?
yeah,
But they're
yeah,
all ones that mattered to me. So I wrote this book of quotes and I grouped them into different themes, and
yeah, yeah.
and then I grouped them into categories. And then what I had done is I told a story about these theme of quotes, and I took the story from my personal life, right?
Of
And I
course.
thought that was a safe way because
Yeah,
I recognized I think I was struggling a little with vulnerability at that point.
I
The one
understand.
the one thing I knew for sure, that if you want to write something and want to give something, like you want to write an impactful book, you got to be really, really vulnerable.
You
And
got it.
at that time, I totally wasn't. I was kind of half in, half out. So I said,
Yeah,
okay, I'll just write this book of quotes, which is safe, right?
yeah. That's not about you, right?
Because everyone likes quotes, right? So I'll write this book of quotes, and then I'll tell a little story,
Yeah,
like a story from my personal life that I'm comfortable with, that will kind of set up the quotes, and that's my book. Well, the feedback that I got
mm.
from a number of people was like, your book is great. We'd like to hear more of your stories.
Of course. I
The
know.
thing,
I
the,
was just going to tell you. I could predict what they're going to say.
the
They
thing
want
that I
more
was
of you.
running, the thing that I
They
was
want
running
more.
from, right? The thing that I was running from.
Of
So
course. So now it's time.
yeah. So I have something in the works.
Good.
I'm being gracious on myself. I'm sort of kind of
Yeah.
mulling through at my own pace here, but it's something that, and I think now definitely is a time, as you just said, considering the life learnings and the lessons and
Yes,
the interactions like this that have
right.
said to me, no, absolutely, let's do what you got to do. And so it definitely is in the works.
Okay, good, because it's a no-brainer. And again, I don't mean to, my production hat wants to go on, and like there's an Audacious Living book, there's an Audacious Living retreat, there's an Audacious Living
Yeah.
workshop, there's an Audacious Living cup. I mean, it's a whole brand, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. No.
and
I've
I hope you're doing that.
no. There's a lot of great ideas mulling around, and
Yeah,
honestly, Rick, more than anything else, this conversation has just reaffirmed all the things I've believed, that
yeah,
I
yeah,
know, right?
yeah, yeah,
So I'm slowly just kind of, but what I do like the part that I'm going at my own pace,
yeah.
like just kind of
Understand?
mulling through, because each time I take a step, I'm like, oh, that's a real good insight. Let me build that into my thing. You
Yeah,
know, 5 years ago, I didn't have a bold framework. Well, I sure
yeah,
am glad I've got one now,
yeah,
as an example. So,
yeah.
yeah, man, this is honestly, Rick, this is fantastic. I'm
Thank
so,
you.
so appreciate. And listen, one last thing, I know you had mentioned that you did some research on me. Well, I did a little bit on you as well. I think it's only fair. And I got to tell you, we got some things in common, right? You talked on your site, you have a list of favorite things. And I got to tell you, homemade pancakes, that's it. That by far, homemade pancakes
Oh
seals
my
the
God,
deal.
that's funny. Oh, love that. I love that.
Especially with little chocolate chips in them. I love my pancakes with chocolate
Oh
chips.
yeah, I
I
can't do
love
the chocolate.
dropping. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love dropping them in there. My daughter and I, that's our thing. But yeah, I thought that was neat. And I wanted to let you know that we're kindred spirit there, Rick.
So fun. Favorite things on a website, always fun, always gets people's attention.
For sure, for sure. Your website, we're gonna make sure it's available in the show notes for our listeners, but it's simply ricktamlyn.com. Yep.
Tamlyn.com. I do an event every year, a virtual event. It's called produceyouevent.com, but they'll find it on my website. Basically, just so y'all know, it is an event that activates the I have a bigger game to put in the world. So it's like an activational 2-day conversation. I direct, I prod, I poke, and we use this model to really go, okay, what are you really creating with your life, right? And so that's an event that happens in October. So just for people to
Awesome.
be aware of that. So
Awesome. Awesome. Rick, this has been great. Thank you for the
thanks, Audley, so
sharing.
much.
Thanks for the
You
time.
bet.
This has been a blast. All the best.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the good work you do for our world.
Thank
Truly.
you.
You bet.
Back, we are here on the podcast. Rick reminds us that the true growth and fulfillment lie outside of our comfort zones. By embracing discomfort and taking bold steps towards our goals, we open up ourselves to a world of endless possibilities and transformation. Let's dare to be audacious and step into the greatness that awaits us. For more personalized guidance and support, feel free to connect with Rick directly. Of course, the contact details can be found in the show notes below, and don't hesitate to reach out and start your own audacious journey today. Thank you so much for tuning into the Audacious Living Podcast. We've sadly reached the end of another episode. If you enjoyed today's content and found value in our conversation with Rick, please consider follow, subscribing, or sharing if you haven't already done so, because it's in these ways our podcast can reach even more individuals looking to live their audacious journey. Together, let's continue to grow and inspire each other towards a life of audacious living. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stephenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.